Good evening and welcome to the June 15th Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is the approval of the May 4th, 2026 minutes. Does anybody have any comments? They look good to me. All right. Seeing none, we move on to approval items. Our first exciting approval item of the evening is around fire hydrants. Would you like to enlighten us?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Perry. So I have a quick summary. So this is around the approval of the fire hydrant easement agreement for the fire hydrants, along the City Line Ave, along our property here. So I just put together a quick summary of basically explaining what that covers. So this agreement is between Phoenixville Area School District and the Borough of Phoenixville regarding the fire hydrants located along the district's property on City Line Ave. The purpose of this agreement is to formally allow the borough access to the school district's fire hydrants along the district's property on City Line Ave. This is to do routine inspections, testing, flushing, emergency access if needed. And this is to ensure the hydrants remain operational and ready in case of emergency. Knock on wood, God forbid. So just another part of that too, there's no upfront cost to district for entering this easement agreement. The document is simply to grant the borough access to inspect these fire hydrants and so on and so forth. So that's that part on there.
Is there more?
No, that's it.
Okay. I assume this is work that we're currently already doing ourselves.
So we are, but the ones that they're pointing out are the ones that they actually already do. This is more of a formal document.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are some that we do pay for that are part of like more of the inner workings of the school,
Sure.
or closer into the property that we
Okay.
cover. But these are the ones that actually fall along the line back here that they purposely already do. But this is more of a formal document to say
Okay.
we're going into.
Do we suspect that they're going to give us notification as to when they're going to be inspecting, just so that we can make sure our security and everybody knows that they're people?
That is something that I would like to lay out with them for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
good.
So that we can, you don't want to do it on a certain day and things aren't ready for that. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any questions? Ms. Turner?
I noticed on here that this is binding in perpetuity on the property. Are there any downsides to doing this?
I would say no. I mean, it essentially just, they're already doing it, so it's essentially just making it more formalized. And like I said, there's no cost to us.
It's $1.
Well, actually $1 back.
$1
The way I read it was, yeah.
They're buying this right for $1.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And just explain to me just briefly, if you would, why do we, if they're already doing this, why would we want to encumber our property further?
Great question. That's a great question. I'll have to return to you on that one. That's a great question.
Wouldn't it be just so that it's clear that they have the ability to do this? So that
Yeah.
there's no, I would think that's, to me, logically, that's the reason they want to do this. It's just that somebody probably whispered in somebody's ear and said, I think it's a good idea that we just codify this so that there's no question as to if there were a problem, it wouldn't be who is responsible
Exactly, yeah.
for looking at these.
It kind of lays it out straightforward.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
maintain it, yeah. So,
We had several similar things set up at Harris Hill with East Pikeland Township, so it's pretty standard.
okay. Anything else? All right. Our next approval item is surrounding the approval of a proposal for Westchester Environmental in the amount of $13,700 for lead testing.
Absolutely. Okay, so and this one is just our annual lead testing that we want to perform over the summer. So we're asking for approval for this portion for proposal. Westchester Environmental in the amount of $13,770 for lead testing here at the school district. This also now includes Harris Hill as well under that proposal. and it covers a total of 345 points. But essentially, this is just to cover the cost to perform that lead testing, which goes through a laboratory analysis, gets checked out. And this also, there was a new mandate that came out over this that were for 0 parts per million, and this does cover that portion as well. So.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
And this is an annual cost, so that we can expect this every year roughly from these guys?
Great question. Actually, we found out that there is a program that the state is doing where you can actually enroll, and we can actually start doing it ourselves. We're not quite ready for that yet because there's a class that you have to go through, or a learning process. They actually bring someone out, they teach you, make sure you're doing it the proper way, how to send out the samples yourself and do everything in that process. We think we'll be ready for the summer of next year for that, but for this year, we don't think we're ready. So going forward, we think this cost can actually go away.
Great. Thank you.
Is this the company we've used previously?
It is. And to be clear, that 0, no, in my discussions with Westchester Environmental, when they do that testing, there is no such value as 0. What you will get is a less than 1. So when you see those numbers, that essentially means 0, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that when you see results come out.
Right. Okay. Anything else on that? All right, moving along. Our next approval item is for approval of professional service agreement with ICS Consulting for $1,500 surrounding the high school renovation project.
Absolutely. I'm going to defer to Dr. Melbourne for this one.
Yeah, so as we're moving through summer, we want to keep moving on the construction project. And a lot of things we heard from the board during the initial phase was, what is this going to look like? What are some more options? So as the board is continuing discussions on some staffing concerns and budgetary concerns, in order to keep this moving, there's a lot of things that administration has been looking at. ICS Consulting is owned by a company called CMTA, who is a parent company of the company that does all of our electrical and natural gas purchasing. So they do our bidding, our purchasing, our contracting. So they're all under one umbrella. During the initial feasibility study, the board had said, can we see maybe some of the examples at other school districts? One of the school districts we brought in was Methacton. The ICS is the project manager for the Methacton project. They're also the project manager for the $250 million middle school that Abington is currently building that actually went to referendum. ICS did all of the paperwork for referendum because they had to go above Act 1 index, and that actually passed on the referendum to build that new middle school. So they're very familiar with this type of service. What we wanted to look at is get a second set of eyes on this. It's really going to drill down what they are, create some more options, because I think as the board looks at maybe some more staffing concerns, we're looking at the overall project costs that we saw of the middle school is about $103 million. It's important to remember that's in September 2025 figures. So if we're looking at 18 to 24 months from breaking ground, you could be looking at a 9 to 10% escalation clause, which on $103 million can rack up to $10, $13 million very quickly. I think that sort of puts us out of the ballpark on where we're going to be able to be with Act 1 indexes. So we need to look at something further. We talked with ICS after we saw what they were doing on the Methacton project. And they had said, you know, you should really look at doing a phase 2 study, which is really going to go into what our original feasibility study did, break it down and create some more options. I think inside their proposal, they actually do break out, you know, instead of the 103 million, what could you get for 80 million? What could you get for 60, 70 million? What could you get for 50 million? So that's sort of what this is going to do. And typically these contracts are tens of thousands of dollars because we've been doing our electricity and natural gas purchasing with this company for probably 15 plus years. They're offering to do it at an extremely lower price of $1,500. We wanted to bring that for the board approval tonight, because if the board approves it tonight, then late summer, early fall, we'll have a deliverable for the board. If we don't, we wait till the fall, you're going to be looking at winter, mid to late winter, till we have a deliverable for the fall. So we thought this was a good next step on where we need to move on this project.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I was wondering why the price was so inexpensive. Okay, are there any questions? Yeah,
Roughly, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Well, that's all of our approval items for tonight. The next is information item about the Meadowbrook Farmhouse. Would you like to take that on?
I would, thank you. So tonight I wanted to make sure I brought some information to the board. I felt like I've done this now for probably 3 different boards, and prior to me, it was done for a couple of boards prior to that. The Meadowbrook Farmhouse, and I know I've put some information out in board updates recently to help educate the existing board. I think there was one board member that sat on the board when we actually did this lease. So I think it's important that before I bid adieu to the district, that you see where we're at the current point. So the Meadowbrook Farmhouse was part of a larger, was part of the entire land acquisition that the district did back in 2013. I think till legally it was all done, it was 2013 or 2014. And the district acquired it through eminent domain. During that time period, and we'll get into some brief history on it very quickly, the decision was made with the district. Initially, I think the district wanted to, like with the barn, they wanted to demolish the barn. The township and the historic commission said no, it's nationally registered, you can't do that. The township at the time received a quotation to redo the barn for, I believe it was $600,000. The district brought in engineers for what they would have to go through as a school district to redo just the barn. We're not even referring yet to the farmhouse, but the barn alone was over $1 million. So during that time, the district got into a task force along with Schuylkill Township and some community members to decide, okay, where do we go with this? I think for a while, the Schuylkill Township was interested in just acquiring it, and I think at the point the district was willing to say, okay, for just the structure, and that, for whatever reason, that all predates my existence at Phoenixville, so for whatever reason, that all fell through. And
Money.
it probably was money, but I wasn't here, so I can't affirm to that. But the decision was made at the time with the existing board at that juncture to say, okay, well, as a district, we're not in the business of historic structures. We're in the business of educating children. So the idea was, let's find somebody that's willing to rehab it and eventually own it. And the reason it was an eventual own is because there's a state law that requires, due to the fact that the district acquired the property through eminent domain, there's a 21-year waiting period for that. You can't just acquire a piece of property and then turn around and sell it tomorrow. So that piece of it became an issue that currently nobody can really own it other than the district till 2034 without the original owner's consent. And that proved to be an issue at the time. So the decision was made at that point to do what's called a lease to own, which is very similar with what the district did with the Pothouse Road property. Somebody goes in, leases it, they rehab it. At such a time, they then, we go to the court and we do the legal process and sell the property to the individual. In November of 2021, the board voted 7-2 to lease, to own the property to Declan Mannion, who's also the owner of Molly McGuire's. And at the time, the district, before I took this position, they were showing it to a bunch of people. I showed it to at least 6 individuals. And once they found out that legally they couldn't own it till 2034, everybody walked out. So what the idea was find somebody that was willing to take that time on their own money and rehab the property. Enter Mr. Mannion. So the structures, as I said, were both deemed to be historic. They're listed in the state. They're listed in the National Register. I even called the National Historic Commission and the State Commission, who both said, at the end of the day, it comes down to the local township. So we can say we're okay with you doing something with the property as far as demolishing the farm, et cetera, but if the Township Historic Commission says no, they overrule us at the end of the day. So that's where we're at this point. Next slide, please. So I kind of went over most of this. 2013 board votes to acquire the property for the purpose of the ELC. It was an entire golf course, a 9-hole golf course. 2017, the Joint Task Force determines that the best path was a lease to own. 2019, district finds an interested party. In 2021, the board voted to lease to own. 2022, the work begins. Now, the barn was stabilized, and I'll have some pictures of that in a moment. And that was the big concern. The barn was failing. The barn was falling down. In fact, the last two people that I showed the barn to, they didn't want to walk in the barn, actually, nor did I, because the whole building creaked as you walked into it. It was literally collapsing around you. And in 2024, the internal work on the farmhouse and the clubhouse began. Phase one, oversight that went along with this. Mr. Mannion, throughout that process with the barn and so forth, township engineers were on site. Engineering drawings were drawn up for the barn and how to deal with it. Permits were all approved, and he has also stayed in touch with the Historic Commission to make sure that he's doing it to their satisfaction as well. Your presentation disappeared on me.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the list of things I will not miss. So this is a picture of the original barn basement. You can see the main beam there beginning to sag, the support beam listing to the right. Those metal beams Mr. Mannion had put in there just as a temporary, we need some steel under this to hold that. And the whole barn, all 3 floors, kind of held that pace all the way up through the rest of the barn. Next slide, please. You can see what they did is they had to do all of this by hand, and they ended up, those holes are 5 feet deep, 3 foot wide. They poured concrete piers in all of them. Mr. Mannion even brought, you can see the gentleman there leaning over on the left-hand side. That is his brother from Ireland, who is a contractor out there. The barn was originally built. It was an Irish design barn. So he was actually the first person who walked into that barn, including engineers that we took into that barn, that I took into that barn, who immediately was like, well, we could do this, and he had answers and solutions for everything. And they, by hand, did all of that because the barn was not structurally sound enough to bring equipment and have that vibration in there. You can see the external picture of the barn. This is the corner that faces the northwest, and you can see the crack going up the side that faces the ELC. Note on the back wall of the barn, you can see 2 vertical lines. Those are actually on either side of the barn. Those are 2 steel bars that inside, and you'll see that picture in a moment, where they had put cables from end to end of the barn, and they were both taut because the barn was starting to come apart. And that was literally the only thing at the time holding the barn together. So what they did was to solve that northwest corner, they put concrete knee walls out there and began to tie the inside together. Next slide, please. And you can see now, and you can sort of see in this image, the cable on the right, you can see it now, it has a slight bend in it, because when they put those knee walls in, they jacked the entire barn up, the walls came back together. And now the floors that they put in are now holding the barn together. So the barn at this point is structurally sound. Sorry, I wasn't keeping up with you over here. Phase 2, the old clubhouse. At this point, the clubhouse inside, and I couldn't, for whatever reason, find the pictures I had, and I wanted to run over and get pictures, but Mr. Mannion won't be back till later this week. He is in Ireland at a family wedding. But the clubhouse has been gutted. The internal floors have been pulled out. New plumbing has been put in, drainage has been put into the floors. Valley Forge Sewer has been out there putting where the public sewer connection is. And they also approved the on-site septic they said as long as it works, they're okay to continue using that for the time as the structure goes on. And they did have that inspected, and it is fine at the moment. Framing for internal walls in the clubhouse have begun to go up. New electric service has been run to the house. That's been in the last year. And a new ADA ramp was put on the clubhouse. Next slide, please. And that's the picture of, you can see on the side of the farmhouse that's facing Route 29. You can see the larger box there, and the new external electric has gone up. Because they're going to have to pull all the electricity out of that building and put all new electric inside. And off the other side there on the right-hand side, that was a wooden collapsing walkway deck that was on there that was removed and a ramp put in. So what Mr. Mannion is planning over the next year with this is the external facing side of the house. All of the work has been currently going on inside with the structure. And he has been working on obtaining loans. And the fact that he doesn't currently own, the district currently owns it, makes it a little difficult for him to get that financing, but he is working on that. And that was the original plan with this. The district knew that this was going to take time. They were having somebody come in doing this on their dime. At this point, I think, as he keeps his records, he currently has about, at last official report he gave me, we were about 780 hours he has into it, plus all of the concrete, all of the beams and so forth, all the inspections, all the engineering drawings and so forth. That has all been on his dime. The district has not put any of that in. Next slide, please. So the process with this is currently, and you'll see a picture of why in a minute for the first point, is to subdivide. I call it subdivide, but we have to redraw the lines on the property, because when this was a 5.6 acre piece of property of the larger 40-some acres, the northwest corner of the property has two of our drain pipes that went in for the stormwater management for the ELC. So obviously we don't want that to be a part of this property. The whole idea was the structures, not land. So we've already contacted Ash Associates, who does most of the surveying of the properties across the district. We had them out there before. They were going to redo the lines, but there was a question as it came to Campbell Lane. They weren't sure whether the district owned actual Campbell Lane or the township owned Campbell Lane. We did talk to the township. We have an email from the zoning officer there, but the township has no record of ever owning it. As far as they're concerned, Campbell Lane belongs to the district and not to the township. So we have recontacted them, so they're going to come out and give us official lines with the new cutoff corner. So it wouldn't be a total 5.6 acres. And when we had it appraised in 2021, the property appraised at $810,000. The appraiser said the buildings on there, I forget what the term they use for it, but I didn't want to be that crass about it, but yes, worthless was the similar term they use. At no added value. It was just the property at $810,000. So what we will do now, though, is redraw the lines, have two appraisals done, and legally what we need to do, or what Mr. Hallman and Dr. Melber will need to do going forward, is you get the two appraisals, petition the court, go to the court, say, here is the deal, here's what we're doing. And this is exactly what we did really with Pot House Road. And when we went in there, the court was like, yes, this is fine. We have zero problem with this, and allowed the district to move forward. So once the lines are redrawn, the appraisals are done, the court is petitioned, and the court date is had, you, the board, or at that point, maybe a different board, some members, would say, okay, here's the value, here's what we want to sell it for, here's the value of what was put into it. The difference will be what is end up being paid, because Mr. Mannion over these years is putting a lot of his money into this investment, which again was exactly what we did with Pot House Road. I think the building ended up selling for somewhere around $350. I think he had something into it at the end of the day, I think, it was $130 or something. When we went to the court was like, yes, this is all good value, and everybody moved on. So that would be the next steps of this. Again, none of this can really take place until, he can't own it until 2034 at this juncture, because of the 21-year waiting period. And that, one more slide. So this is the property picture. You can see the structure of the house on the right-hand side of that, the curved driveway that faces Hallowell Ave. That curved portion is Campbell Lane. You see the barn is the one by the gold line. The red line is the original 5.6 acres, but you can see in that upper corner that it's two reasons we wanted to cut that corner off, and this discussion has already been had with Mr. Mannion. He has always been fine with that. A, our stormwater management, and B, the district has talked about putting a connective path that goes through that open space and then connects the macadam paths over at the athletic complex over to the paths that go around the high school, and connect that over to the ADA path and so forth to make a complete a track. So that would need to be done first before we continue on. The district would maintain the creek, educational value of the creek. We've had high school science classes over there. They planted 200 trees over there. So they've had, the students have had involvement in the creek and the riparian buffer all through there. And that is that's basically where we sit with the farmhouse and the barn.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. It's very thorough. So are we understanding how significant the tally of Mr. Mannion's cost outlay will be by 2034? Is he providing like an annual report? I know you referenced inspections and
Yeah, so the last report he gave us was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago,
Okay.
because the progress has slowed over the last 1.5 years, 2 years. Again, we have to realize this is somebody with a full-time business.
Right.
They're doing this on their time. And while he's trying to find financing to continue on with the external side of that, that progress had slowed a bit over the last couple of years.
And then you referenced like hours that he's put in. Do we have any type of like contracted arrangement on what those hours are worth?
We don't really.
So there's no real way to audit that either, I guess, at the end of this
Other
process,
than us
right?
inspecting it and going out and taking a look at it and keeping in contact with him, which we have as the work is going on.
But even then the rate itself, right, at what's the value of the 780 hours that he's
That's
put?
going to be for the board essentially to decide at time of sale.
Okay.
So in our contract, do we have any amount listed? Does he pay us monthly for the lease? Or there's no actual lease?
It's like a dollar lease because of the amount of investment he's placing in the property right now. That was the original lease that was done. As far as the sale price, the final sale price hasn't been determined yet.
It's my understanding that had we not been able to enter into this with him, that we would have had to have done some or most of the work to the barn
Yes.
at our expense.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
So you said the original assessed value of this property was 810,000
In 2021.
in
Yep, that's yes.
2021? So do you have any sense of what the current value would be just of the property?
Until we get the appraiser out, I'm not an appraiser, so I couldn't give you that, no.
So as I recall, when we went through this process with the Pothouse Roadhouse, the value of what they had put in was still less than the overall value, and so they paid us some money at the end.
Correct.
Is there a possibility that he will have spent
We owe him.
15, yeah, I don't want to owe him money.
No, that,
guess is the
I
question.
don't,
It's $1,000 an hour.
it's been a minute since I've gone through that, but that's not a factor in there, no.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do we know what the outcome of it will be? I mean, he's putting money into it. Is this for historical purposes? Is this for housing? Do we know anything like that?
There's been some ideas floated. It's been a bed and breakfast was floated, just keeping it personal was floated. Originally, when we were trying to find a suitable owner, if you will, to take this on, there was discussions of, maybe it would be sufficient for law offices. I remember one group I took through there, it was, they were talking about making yoga studios out of it. But again, the minute they found out that they couldn't own it for a time, they all fell through. One was simply an investor. She was from Lancaster and she invested in historic properties. But again, her response to me was by 2034, I won't be here anymore. So, I mean, that was her answer and the meeting ended right there.
So we still own it now. He's doing some work on it. Is there, in our agreement, is there any sort of like liability risk to us with work being done on it that we don't have control over in some capacity?
The lease has him
Okay.
insuring it for liability and any kind of injury and so forth.
Okay. And then I guess maybe thinking through what Frank was thinking as well. So did I understand that his brother was also doing work on the property?
Yes, that was part of those hours. He
Okay.
came in because that's something he specializes, my
Yeah.
understanding, in Ireland. And he came in and he spent probably 2 months here working on it almost every day.
Okay. So, but at some point down the road, we will have to decide, the board will have to decide what that is worth. Okay.
And it was the same thing we did with Pothouse
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is there a termination date listed in the lease?
At this point, I don't think there is a termination date. It's kind of contingent on the sale, or if he breaks out of the lease or I don't want to say breaks out of it, but fails to do his side of it and says, I can't invest any more money and walks away from it, then, it's all null and void and the property is back to just being ours.
But we haven't determined or outlined how to account for the work that he's done.
He does keep
Over
track
the-
of that. The receipts for his materials and labor.
So in the lease, it states if he does so many hours, that equates to this amount of credit, or I'm just trying to understand
It doesn't state
how
that in there.
we-
It doesn't state that in there because there's no actual value that's been placed on it yet.
I think to Ms. Walker's point, if he walks away, do we owe him something for the value of the work and materials that he's put in?
That was kind of the agreement with the district, but I mean, that would be something that you would decide at that juncture.
It feels like the big variable, I'm sorry, go ahead. The big variable is what's the hourly rate, right? The other direct costs, you can produce receipts, invoices, inspections, materials, beams, but at those 780 hours, does he want $400 an hour for that? Does he want $30 an hour? That's,
Yeah, and and that's a fair question.
Yeah.
I mean, when we went through the same Q&A when it came to Pothouse Road. It was, what was a general going rate at the time? And it was, and honestly, what he came back with was well within.
Yeah. I mean, is it worth trying to memorialize that now? There's still 8 years
Well,
left.
and that's why I'm bringing it, and
Okay.
we, in talking to Mr. Belwar, to start
Okay.
putting that paperwork together now.
Okay.
Did legal review this original lease before it was signed? Or?
Well, the legal at the time was Mr. Belwar, and still is. He originally, when, the instructions I was given at the time was, here's the legal counsel that dealt with all of this from the eminent domain forward. So he's been the counsel with us the entire time.
Okay, anything else?
Is there anything that the board is requesting right now, information that we can get from Mr. Belwar? I'm assuming the board would like to see the lease. We can provide that. Is there anything else that you would like to, because there's a lot of questions, and once Mr. Gibson goes, we do not have the history here, other than Mr. Belwar. So is there anything that I can get the board? Or
I
we
think
can get
that's
the
a good
board?
starting point.
Yes.
To have the lease so we can review it
Sure.
and understand it more. I'm concerned that the terms are extremely ambiguous, and so it just.
I think the thing that we should work on is trying to basically put together a calendar of, leading up to the potential sale, and just what we expect to sort of have gone through leading up to that. What those steps are, I'm not entirely sure,
Sure.
but at least to have an idea of where we want to be at a certain juncture, and as we move forward. I mean, it seems like from the standpoint of what the Historic Commission wanted done, that's already sort of been covered in terms of the stabilization of the property. We are no longer in, imminent failure mode with that stuff.
Yeah,
So-
and their term is demolition by neglect. It would be what the Historic Commission would say to you in that respect. But yes, and are they done with this? No, I mean, they want to see the full property brought back, and the external sides done, the inside of the farmhouse done, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that's, that's knowledge, that's known by all parties.
So I think the instruction is probably, let's see if we can update and formalize this lease, because it provides protection for him as well, in case a board in
Right.
8 years wants to charge him like $5 an hour, or something like that. So it should be mutually beneficial to lay that out and give us some predictability, and him as well.
I think it's important to keep in mind that his position is a unique one in that if we were to try and find someone else in the same position, I think that would be very difficult. We would be faced with a whole slew of different circumstances that we would have to deal with, how we would have to move forward with this property. So
Yeah, but I
take
don't
that
think it's
for what
about
it's worth.
replacing. I think.
No, I understand that.
You know, I think,
I'm just saying that.
To your point, it would bring a lot of certainty for him as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like, I would think he'd produce an annual, hey, here's a report of what's happened over the, even if it's not much. Here's where we are at the end of '26, sort of a running tally on what his costs have been, what he's outlaid, time, materials, et cetera. I would want that if I were him too.
You good? Ms. McGinnon?
I think one of the things Ms. McTiernan just said that makes me raise an eyebrow is that we're going to lose history and Mr. Gibson leaves. So what strategies have we put in place to ensure that our new person, Mr. Hallman, is all ready to go?
Right, and one of the things, we reached out and tried to get a meeting with Mr. Manning, but as I said, I think he's back tomorrow. He's been in Ireland at a wedding, a family wedding. He is back tomorrow, and I did make contact with him to say, he knows what my termination date is, and that we that we need to get together with Mr. Hallman, perhaps Dr. Melbourne, and so forth, and have a meeting and make sure everything stays in sync.
Okay.
And that's part of your transition docs that you have put together for Mr. Holman?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. I mean, I have utmost confidence that everything that Mr. Gibson has laid out for me is perfect as far as the timeline up until this point, but getting over to the farmhouse will definitely be a huge step in actually seeing it and being in that space as well, so.
Okay, anything else? All right. I wanted to take a quick moment to point out the momentous occasion we have here, that Mr. Gibson's last Buildings and Grounds meeting is tonight. And before he goes off and combs a beach with a metal detector, or whatever he wanted to say thank you. It's been, I found that you have dealt with the board with a fair amount of grace and understanding and patience, and I really appreciate your tutelage in terms of how things work. And so from that perspective, I really would like to, say thank you, and I think we all really are going to miss you and appreciate you for the work that you've done over the years. How long has it been now? 11? Is it?
With Phoenixville, yes, it's been 11. I came in 2015.
It's a long
Early
time.
2015.
But I think we're in good hands.
You are absolutely.
And-
I have all the confidence in the world in Mr. Hallman.
Mr. Hallman and I have hit it off well, so I think, go
And I
comb the
hand-
beach with
And I
confidence.
I hand that back. I really do appreciate the confidence, all the boards I've worked with throughout my entire career and here at Phoenixville, because there's certainly been some interesting projects here at Phoenixville. And I appreciate all the dialogue back and forth, even when they were challenging ones. It was just part of what we do. And we've always tried to really look out for the community, the educational community.
Well, just in my short time on the board, we have covered a lot in terms of the projects, and we've collectively all gotten a fair amount done, and with no small amount of thanks to you. So, thank you. All right. So we will move on to recognition of visitors. We have 4 people have signed up. I cannot read your last name. I think your first, is it Denise or Dennis? Dennis? Okay, come on up. Just say your name and,
Actually, don't think anybody would say the last name right. It's Dennis Camarda. I live in Phoenixville. My concern is the track. For me, this is 9 months of waiting for an answer to use the track. And then the hours came out June 1st. I apologize to Scott and Dan for multiple emails, but when I looked at the hours, I was really insulted. All I can ask is that they look at, I actually wrote this down. I can't believe I thought of this. The nights could be 6 to 9. If there is a game or something is going on, obviously we can't use the track. The weekends, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, any club use, games, whatever, no use of the track. When I looked at Springford has their track open 37 hours and Phoenixville's 20. So it's big. It's a big number when you use the track. I have arthritis in both knees. The track is really the only place I walk. So now I bike, do other things, but the track was the place. That's it. And I thank you again for Friday night. I thought the graduation ceremony was great. I know it's a lot, but, thank you.
thank you. Next is Lisa Longo.
Good evening, Board. I wanted to just talk about the highest and best use of our facilities. I was attending board meetings starting back in about 2010, maybe 2009. So was here throughout Mr. Gibson's tenure, and the whole Meadowbrook, the eminent domain, right? I believe I was one of the no votes on the farmhouse, as I recall. One of the issues I had was this question of what it was going to cost, what would be the benefit to our taxpayers. And as you're now looking at the high school being overcrowded and needing this renovation, one of the things I had put forward was using these buildings for the district. The district offices could quite easily move. We heard they want to put law offices. Well, why not put the district offices and use this as classroom space for the high school? So I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm saying it's one possible solution that we should be investigating as a district. Does it make financial sense? Does it make safety sense? Does it make historical sense? Because Dr. Allen Savage, what I heard her say is losing history. One of the things that came up, and again, we don't know that it's true, I don't think anybody ever went back to it, but the family had made statements about historical aspects of during the siege at Valley Forge. Were there any encampments there? What was the historical background? And I had always thought, wow, history classes at that location would also be amazing. So I think there's a lot of different uses we can look at, and recognizing the amazing work that's been done to put safety in place. At one point, we had to have safety fencing around it because we were quite concerned it was going to fall down. So I think that there's a lot of uses other than just sale that the board can consider. Another idea was life skills, to put a life skills program that would actually generate revenue because other districts would send students. So these are just some of the ideas that I remember us talking about, but I think there were 3 or 4 more. And that brings me to how we came to these ideas, right? We had a community advisory group specific for construction. We had one for budget, we had one for construction. The one for construction included engineers, architects, planning commissioners, and forming such a community engagement to help you to formulate these ideas is incredible. And there were probably 20 people, right, on that. Ken remembers probably, I wasn't on the construction, I was on the budget. But I know that when we were looking at building Manavon and the ELC, we couldn't have done it as a board without them. There simply wasn't enough time, and we didn't have the expertise. So we relied on our community experts to come in and give that to us. So please consider taking advantage of that kind of community engagement. Excuse me. I wanted to ask about East Pikeland Elementary. Hasn't come up in a while. Sitting there, I know it's rented a little bit.
30 seconds.
But what is the district, the long-term plan? Are we getting any revenue? Is that an option for some kind of better use?
That's been sold.
It has been sold. Congratulations. So that brings me to my last point, is that when we sell capital assets, reserving those funds to reduce debt. We now service debt. I looked at the budget, I printed it out, over $13 million a year in interest. So anytime we sell a capital asset that we funded with these bonds, take that money and retire some debt. There is sometimes early debt benefits. Not always. Right now with the bond market, it's iffy. But asking for an analysis of that and reserving funds and trying to reduce that debt service, because that puts that money right back in your operating budget, and that's how we fund more teachers and other things.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, John Moraz.
Good evening, John Moraz, Schuylkill Township. 2 questions. Ken did answer the question, I believe, on Campbell Lane. As far as we know, Campbell Lane is owned by the school district, correct? How much work or what has been done on that Campbell Lane? If you go back there, I think it's a rut-filled 1-lane road. And do you understand that someone needs to upkeep that lane? Because there has been discussion with the Schuylkill Township for there's a building at the far end of that lane to make it into apartments. And that runs right into Campbell Lane. So does the school district know or understand what they will have to do on Campbell Lane? And if you do the rezone or do the line changes, what part will go to Mannion, what part will remain with the school district? So there's some capitalization that has to be done on that Campbell Lane property. If you're not aware of it, every board member should go back there and see that property if you haven't. Because it should be, again, not a thoroughfare, but it's for emergency vehicles. And I don't think even a fire truck can get through that right now. Secondly, I understand from the last meeting that there was discussions or approval of charging for using the track at the high school. Now, I was not at the meeting, but I understand that took place. Was there any discussion? Was that on the agenda item for the public to see? And why is it being charged to the people? No, I'm not saying yes or no yet, but I understand there was a lot of discussion about that outside the school district. And how much was noted by the people before the board approved that? Plus, if you're going to charge for using the track, are you charging for tennis courts? As you know, you're going to spend a lot of money for tennis courts. And you had discussion that people from outside the district use the track. I bet you people are using the tennis courts that are outside the school district. So why isn't the tennis courts being charged? If so, maybe I'm incorrect. Are you charging for use of the tennis courts? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quickly.
Sure.
It was not a board vote or discussion item. That was an administrative, an AR put in place for the track usage. But that was something that we had discussed in previous meetings going back. And just to clear, the charge is a one-time fee for your key card, and there's no renewal fee ever. There's no ongoing charge to use the track. It's just the one-time fee to get your own key card, and then you have that for perpetuity, as long as you don't lose it.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question about that? We always offered seniors a gold card at no charge, and they could come to not only use the track, but come to all events. Is that still in place?
We do still have the gold pass, yes.
Excellent.
I don't know if that applies to the track. That's for district events. Not a bad idea to consider.
Okay. Our next speaker is Mike Padilla.
Hi, Mike Padilla, School Township. This is about the track. But first off, I don't want to embarrass you, Dan, but Dan's been great at serving as a model board member in his engagement with the community. I'm not sure if you guys follow like Facebook, but he is highly engaged. I don't know if he has a job outside of the board member, but like he is the ideal board member with community engagement. So props to Dan. So yeah, for the track, as the other gentleman mentioned, yeah, Springford is a good model. So if you just read their hours, it just makes common sense, right? So during school days, 5:30 to 8 a.m., and then 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Makes sense, cut up the time for the school. And in the summer, once again, just common sense, 5:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And obviously, if there's any conflict with other scheduled events, other people can't go there. Conestoga, track's just open. I live on that side of the township, so I normally go there. But I know I've seen like some of our best athletes, they're there in the summer. So Frank, your son was there. I know he can't, and now in the future rules, right? He can't use the field. So but I saw him and Ryan there kicking the balls, but like that's what you're closing out on. So I would just ask the board to think of a broader, more inviting policy that doesn't conflict with other schedules. And just for everyone to kind of know, right? So Phoenixville's policy is 5:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. on school days, so super early. Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m. Saturday, 6 to 9 a.m. Sunday, 6 to 9 a.m., 8 to 10 p.m. And in the summer, 6 to 8 a.m. and 8 to 10 p.m. So if you want to inspire a healthy, active community, open up this great facility, make it more easily accessible. Thanks.
Okay. That is all of our people who signed up. Our next meeting will be August 10th, 2026 at 5:30 PM. With that, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned at 6:25.